Welcome to another episode of the Solo Collective podcast. My name is Matt Saunders. I am your host, and I am a designer, writer, and coach for creative freelancers and solo business owners. In this episode, I'm going to answer a question that one of my clients came to me with recently, which is, can you share with me 5 lessons from building your web development agency? So for those that don't know, back in 2017, 2018, I decided to niche down into working with charities. I was a web designer for small charities, and that business became probably one of the most crowning achievements of my career. So I'd been a web developer for a number of years, and once I'd niched down, I grew a team. I turned 6 figures. I just worked on some cool projects with some great clients. And so that's my success story, really. And this client really wanted to know, what did I do to make that happen? What were the main changes that I made to my business and to my mindset that enabled me to do that? In this episode, I'm going to go through those 5 things to give you some tips and some things to think about that you may be able to apply to your own business and to your own life so that you can reach the levels of success that you are looking for. Okay, so the first thing that helped me to move from that kind of fragile freelancer, with feast or famine, not really enjoying my work, not making enough money, what enabled me to move from that to a thriving business owner was daily exercise. I've had a relationship with exercise, with the gym, for most of my adult life, to be honest with you. I think I first joined a gym when I was 16, but it's always been a bit sporadic. I have a couple of weeks of intense exercise and then I let it slip for, another 2 weeks. And it's kind of like an off and on relationship. Well, one of the things that I did when I started this business back in 2017 was create a routine for myself. So every single morning, I would take my skipping rope and I would go out into the back garden, and in 30-second intervals, I would skip, get the heart rate really going, get sweaty, feel good about it. And then I'll come back in, maybe do another 10 minutes on the treadmill, do some push-ups, sit-ups, those kinds of things. Not a massively intense workout, relatively speaking, but it was pretty hardcore for me at the time. And I probably only spent about 15-20 minutes doing this in total, but it was the regularity of it. And what it did was it set my day off right. It gave me the energy that I needed to really sit down at my laptop and focus on the important tasks that I had at hand, whether that was preparing for a client pitch, writing some content for my site, or just working on a client project. I found that when I created energy in my body, that translated itself into mental energy and clarity as well. So my first tip, and the first thing that I actually did to build the agency, strangely enough, was, adopt an exercise regime into my life. The second thing that really helped me to grow this business was niching down. So for about 10 years, I'd worked as a web developer pretty much for anyone who would pay me, estate agents, inventors, authors, all kinds of different industries. When I decided to niche down into working with small charities, it really did change everything, because all of a sudden I had a much, much clearer idea of who I was supposed to be targeting, who I was talking to. I knew what their problems were, I knew what their aspirations were, and therefore my content could be just so much more laser focused. Before I used to talk about WordPress and plugins and responsive design and all this kind of stuff. All web developers are talking about that. There's no way to stand out when you're talking about the same thing that everybody else is talking about. But if you can angle those things at a particular audience, wow, it really opens up so much. So I think in the space of a couple of years, I went from doing about 30 grand to doing 100 grand, not purely, but mostly because I chose this niche, right? And it doesn't matter what niche you choose, you need some way to discern who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. Really kind of narrow down who that ideal client is for you, the kind of company, the kind of person, if you like, that you can imagine yourself working with, talking to, building rapport with. Like, use that information to create content. Use that focus to create content, and you too will see similar success, I'm very sure, in your own creative practice. The third thing that helps me to move from not really having much of an income to hitting six figures and really enjoying my work was, in a very broad way, I would say personal development. So when I started this agency to work with charities, I knew that I had to become influential within the space. I knew that I had to be kind of a thought leader, which is a phrase that, at the time kind of made my skin crawl a little bit. But, if you want to have impact, if you actually want to have impact, you got to dig in. And this is what I was doing at that time. So I realized that I had to get out of my own way. I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was the guy that would very happily sit behind his laptop 8 hours a day, headphones in, and never talk to anybody. But I needed to stop being just the web designer, web developer guy, and start being the business owner. So what did that mean? That meant putting myself out there. It meant going and do public speaking. I remember I ran a workshop. I invited 12 charities to a local coffee shop, and I was terrified. I literally had a 15-minute presentation that I must have rehearsed about 30 times. Even my partner knew it word for word, right? This is how much I talked about this thing, how much I rehearsed it. And sure enough, we got there on the day and it went absolutely great. Like, it was very well received. The charities themselves saw this as an awesome networking event. Can't remember if I actually got any work out of this, but the point is, it got me out of my comfort zone. So personal development was a huge thing on my journey to, being successful in business. Point number 4, and this is a bit more of a tactical one, but SEO, investing in search engine optimization. What this did was this enabled people, my ideal clients, to find me. Pretty much every week, this generated leads for my business. They'd come across my website from Google. I think I was ranking on page 1. I think I had 2 pages ranking on page 1 of Google for various different charity web design related search phrases. So yeah, these organizations, they saw me as an authority. I had on that landing page pictures of donation forms and volunteers and things. So it wasn't just, hey, I'm a web designer, here's a picture of WordPress. It was, I'm a web designer for you. I'm a web designer for organizations like you with problems that you have that I have solved. So reach out to me and I will use my skills and service to solve your problems. And sure enough, that's what they did. And again, this is why my income tripled in the space of 18 months, 2 years, because of that relevance. And the fifth and final thing that really helped me to move the needle in my business was learning coaching skills. Now, I remember at the time, despite the fact that my client relationships had improved so massively, there were still certain things that weren't working as well as I wanted them to. So I'd make recommendations to clients and sometimes it wouldn't land. And I would talk about best practice, but they would still have their own opinions about how things should be done. And there's only so much you can push things. And I thought there's got to be a better way to help them get results without just laying the law down and telling them that this is the way it's going to have to be, because that's not a great relationship. So I learned coaching skills because coaching is all about open questions. It's about being exploratory in the conversation, and it's about being goal focused as well. So it's not about ego. It's not about you getting your own way and clashing and all this sort of stuff. Before this, I used to get into conversations with clients about, what color a button should be or something like that. And they would have one opinion, I would have another, and then you would draw on some best practice study and they would deny it or whatever. And it's just like all of this stuff just kind of melts away when you adopt the coaching approach. So, I studied an online course, I got my own coach, and I used the skills that I learned. And sure enough, it improved the relationship and the results that we got, with those client projects. So yeah, learning coaching skills is a really big thing for me. So those are the 5 things that really did help me to build a successful creative business, help me move from that freelancer mindset to one more of an abundant agency owner that could see opportunity everywhere. The first one was daily exercise. The second one was niching down. The third one was personal growth. The fourth one was optimizing for SEO. And the fifth one was learning coaching skills. If any of these resonate with you, I encourage you to go and follow it up in your own way. Go and investigate what's possible for you. Find out where the needle movers are in your business and in your mindset and start applying them. You know where your areas for improvement are. You know deep down what your weaker points are, right? So look at those things and put steps in place to improve them incrementally over time. The work that you do on yourself, on your processes, on your business, the time that you spend there and the little improvements and tweaks that you make, they will have dramatic impacts down the line. This is going to be felt in 6-12 months time. You will see the results of the work that you do. So I hope that one was helpful. If so, please let me know. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Matt Saunders. Just search me on there, or you can reach me at mattsaunders.uk. Do take a minute to like, comment, share, all that good stuff with this podcast. The more people that see it, the more people that we can help. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.